Text Expander from Smile is supporting this edition of MacVoices. Text Expander can help you be more productive in every single application on your Mac. Find out how at textexpander.com. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is the second in our two-part conversation with Jeff Carlson about his new book, Take Control of Your Digital Storage. A little disclaimer here. As we open the conversation this time, we start talking about Apple's Fusion drives. Now, if you've been paying attention, Apple released new iMacs between the time Jeff and I recorded this interview and the time you see it. But I left this in for two reasons. First of all, it's really good information. Fusion drives are going to be around for a long time as part of the Mac ecosystem, whether you're buying new or used, because Apple is still offering it on the lower cost 21.5-inch iMacs. So you can still buy a Fusion drive from Apple, and Jeff talks about why you may or may not want to. There are a lot of other topics here, so we'll just get right back to it with Jeff. Okay, boy, there are a lot of things I want to unpack there.
Sorry.
No. I love this. I love this because you bring up some really practical questions. The first one, let's just hit real quick. Fusion drive for Mac or SSD?
Mm-hmm.
Should we be?
Which one do you?
Yeah. How do you? I mean, we all understand that the Fusions are not quite as fast, but almost as fast as SSDs. They have, for the money, you get more storage capacity, but you have 2 points of failure now, and so on the other hand, I'm running a Mac over here that's been running for a lot of years on a Fusion drive, and it has performed flawlessly. And I know most people have had really good experiences with Fusion drives, but it's still, you still just are not completely comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I would just go for an SSD, purely because of the performance, the simplification. Like it's the storage, and that's where it is, and it's faster, and it doesn't have to, like you said, have two different components. I don't know, a lot of people might not be aware that a Fusion drive is not like, a single box that's attached inside your computer. It's actually like the SSD memory is in one spot, and then the hard disk part is in another spot, and there's a controller that connects them, but not directly. It's not like you just have like here's this hybrid drive. You can buy hybrid drives, but those are more, if you want to assemble your own PC kind of a thing. And so, just for simplicity's sake, and just for performance sake, I would definitely go with just an SSD, unless you need a vast amount of storage. But even then, I think I would be more inclined to set up some sort of external possibility. So you'd have a nice fast SSD in your computer. And, assuming this is going to be I believe it's only the iMacs now that have Fusion drives, then, it's not like you're going to need to take it anywhere. So you have your iMac, you plug in a really large SSD or a large external drive, or connect it to a NAS. Then you have your storage taken care of, because it's all going to be there on the desk anyway.
And again, you're circling back around to where one of the places I want to go, and that is that the SSDs now, the externals have gotten so fast, and now we have Thunderbolt, and even USB-C or USB 3.0, I guess 3.1, but Thunderbolt
3.2 Gen 2, I think.
3.2 Gen 2, you are correct. Yes, 3.2 Gen 2.
Again, geeks.
But you now have that option to, instead of having to try to crack your iMac case, you can just plug this in and get that power and get that automatic upgrade. And in a lot of ways, there's some advantages to it, because now your operating system and all everything critical is offline, if anything happens to your iMac, you can literally take that, plug it into another iMac, and fire it up and go. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
opens up, a lot of possibilities. And even, I mean, even if you bought an SSD from Apple, right now I think there are new SSDs out there that are even faster, and they're not cheap, but they're not, oh my God, expensive like they used to be either.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and actually, what I think another big shift that we've seen in the last few years is external SSDs, because just the way of technology now, because hard drives have been around for so long, they are relatively cheap, and SSDs are more newer, more complicated. So you're going to spend more and get less for an SSD in terms of like quantity. In terms of performance, it's no comparison. But in terms of like little external drives, you can now get like a 500 gig or even 1 terabyte SSD, just like little USB powered SSD, for less than $300. I want to say, I think a friend of mine got a 500 gig for like $150. And depending on what you need for it, it's got USB 3.0. It's certainly fast enough to do most everything that you need, unless you have specialized needs. And so, for example, I have a SanDisk little I can't remember what it's called, like Express Pro whatever, and I'm actually using that to run a beta of macOS Big Sur. And so I'm booting from that, and it's absolutely fast enough to run the operating system, on my Mac, which, if you remember, not too long ago, you would make a duplicate onto a, 7,200 RPM external drive. And if you were used to an SSD and you had to jump back to that, like you boot up and then you go get coffee and then you come back and you wait a little bit longer and you read an article on your phone, and there's just no comparison. So being able to have that speed at more affordable levels makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And that's just external too. So
yeah, exactly. The one other thing I wanted to make sure we got to, though, are those big inexpensive discs that you see like at Costco, at Best Buy, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the prices and you say, oh my God, this is crazy. How can they do this? Especially if you are that much tech savvy and you go over to Newegg or to Amazon and look at the regular raw drive for that same capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much more. And it's like, what is going on here? So two questions on this. First of all, when I buy one of those big drives, and you say they're rating two of them together,
oftentimes, yeah.
Are they software rating it, or is there something built into the firmware that is controlling it?
That's a very good question. I think it's the hardware. I think that there's, it's just has like a controller chip that's handling all of that. Like with a NAS basically has its own. I mean, a NAS is basically a computer, and it's got its own operating system, and you can connect to it via a web browser, and use your mouse, and it's got different apps and things like that. With one of these, I'm pretty sure it's all just hardware, and I'm not even sure to what degree those would let you even say, I want to change the RAID formula for it. Like those are great because they just give you a big amount of storage. And if it's something that you just want to, throw storage onto them, you want to have your photos there, right? Although as you're opening and editing your photos, you're going to get a little bit of a performance hit because it has to read large amounts of data and bring them over. it's great because most of that data you're just not going to touch on a regular basis. And so it's a closet where you can throw a bunch of stuff into. And that's the real advantage of those.
Right. Well, the reason I ask twofold. First of all, it would almost have to be, you would think, because I would have concerns if I went to reformat it using the Mac OS and there wasn't something in firmware that I might end up reformatting it as two different drives.
Yeah.
Which could get interesting. But also, I've heard people talk about. I've never done this, Jeff. Because why would you do this? But you could go buy one of those and crack it open, and then take those drives and put them in something like a Drobo or a Synology, and take advantage of the cheap price. The downside to that, of course, is that you never know exactly what drives or what you're getting. You just know what they advertise it and what their chip and their controller does. So it's a little bit of a crapshoot, but it is something that if you want to geek around with it a little bit, it can be fun to do. It's like opening a present on Christmas Day. It's like, wow, did I really get a really fast drive in here, or did I get a cheap dog drive? But
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's probably not a stretch to say that if what's a good way to say this? If you're not spending very much for one of these, it's not likely that you're going to have really good components inside of it. One of the things that I mentioned in the NAS section is there's a sidebar that talks about why you actually want to buy drives that are rated for use in a NAS. Because the way they write and read data is different than just a disk that kind of sits off to the side, not doing very much. And so for a big Costco drive, it may not be important that the components in there have extra shock absorption or various types of hardware redundancy. But in a NAS where the device is reading from 2 or 4 or 8 different drives at once, and it's copying things in different patterns. You want something that's going to be a little bit higher rated. So yes, you can absolutely throw some junk drive in there, but it might slow down everything else. So it's kind of you kind of get what you pay for. The good news is, you don't have to pay a lot, and you certainly don't need to go, like there are IT enterprise level of drives that need to, do massive amounts of data all the time that are really expensive. Like you don't need to go that far, but it is worth, putting NAS drives into a NAS box just because of performance and longevity.
Right. This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Text Expander by Smile. The odds are that if you're working from home and will be for the foreseeable future. You are answering the same questions for clients over and over all day, and your coworkers and employees are probably doing the same thing. And that's where Text Expander can help. With Text Expander, you can craft the perfect answer to your frequently asked questions, put it in a snippet, then insert it into an email or a text message or a social media post with just a few keystrokes. Better than that, you can then share that across your entire organization so that everyone is delivering a consistent, high-quality message. That cuts down on confusion, mixed messages, and inaccurate information. That saves time in answering those questions and saves time by preventing follow-up questions. And company-wide snippets are just part of the story. Snippets can be customized to insert various specifics from a pre-created list so that your messages can be even more customized for your clients, yet consistent and accurate. And no matter what platform you're working on, Mac, iPhone, iPad, Windows, Chrome OS, or where you're working, home, office, car, in the backyard, in the basement, Text Expander is there for you to make you more productive and more consistent. Now, I can't understand why you wouldn't be using Text Expander, but if you haven't seen the light yet, you can visit TextExpander.com right now to give it a try for free. You will be up and running in minutes and being more productive immediately. Again, visit TextExpander.com for your free trial. Text Expander from Smile. See what all their world-class software can do for you at smilesoftware.com/podcasts. Thanks to Smile for being the longest-running sponsor of MacVoices. All right, so again, a couple different directions to go, but you did segue into something, and that is so I go to, I either pull up one of the websites or maybe I go to Best Buy. It's not quite as bad as Best Buy, but you still have it. I've got red drives. I've got green drives. I've got blue drives. I've got black drives. I've got purple drives. I've got all these things. Oh, and blue drives, if I didn't say blue. And so first of all, I need to be educated as to which color goes where, and not every manufacturer uses those colors. They use other designations. Do you provide like a rainbow guide in the book to what color I should be picking for what?
No, not to that specific detail. Just because, like I've seen there are red drives, and then there's red pro drives, and that's all just kind of. I mean, it's brilliant marketing, but
those darn geeks again.
Those darn geeks again. Yeah. So hopefully, what I'm doing is giving you an idea of how to interpret a lot of those specs. I mean, so I have a Synology NAS. It's got 4 bays, and I buy the WD Western Digital red drives, and they've worked out great. In fact, I just put a new one in because I'd only bought 3 in the first place, just I think because of either cost or because I realized that that's as much data as I needed, and that was 2 years ago. And so, I mean, literally last week I put in another red drive to supplement that storage, and I've had no problems whatsoever. Knock on wood. So
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're right. There is a lot of marketing to it, but there is some legitimacy to it as to how these drives are rated.
Yes.
Like the green drives are typically, not always, but typically slower because they allegedly consume less energy.
Right.
I think the purple drives are allegedly rated for surveillance equipment.
Yeah,
if I remember.
I think so. Yeah.
The reds, as you said, are NAS. The black are supposed to be the highest performance drives. They're the fastest drives. But yeah, it can be a real challenge to go out and decide, instead of just saying, okay, I want a 4 terabyte drive. Well, but what are you going? We're back to the usual question. What are you going to do with it? As to which one you need to buy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Storage is, you started out by saying this was kind of boring, but maybe it is for some people, but at the same time, it's stuff you really have to think about.
Yeah.
One not even a caveat, a concern I have with buying those big, cheap Costco, Best Buy drives, I got to have somewhere to back them up.
Yes.
Because, if I'm putting my photos on there and it goes belly up, then guess what? I've lost all my photos.
Yes. Well, and I know we keep circling backups, but, there is a very good case to be made for buying, an inexpensive, even depending on the usage, but, like an inexpensive 5,400 RPM, which is pretty slow, like external disk just for backups. So, one of the things that I do is, I have my computer, and then I have like a big, I want to say it's an 8 terabyte external drive. It's in its own enclosure, and that's kind of where I keep my media. And then I have backups that go to my NAS. But for that media drive and for my internal hard drive, I just bought, I want to say it's like a 6 terabyte. I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically I just bought like a bare internal 3.5 inch 7,200 RPM drive, and I slot that into a disk toaster, which is basically just a device that lets you pop a drive in, so you don't have multiple enclosures and all the associated power supplies and their cabling and all that. Like, you just slot that in, connects to it. I run SuperDuper to duplicate that disk, and then I take that external backup disk out and put it on a shelf or put one in a safe deposit box. Like, there's no reason that needs to be a great disk. All it has to do is to be able to hold data. And, like, do I care that it's rated for, video performance? No, because all it needs to do is just hold stuff, and hold stuff in a way that it's not going to, stop working when I need it again, which is why you have redundant backups. But, it's that thing where you're like, okay, all I need is a big hard drive. This will take me 10 minutes. I'll order something from Amazon and be done with it. And then an hour later, you're like, well, what about this? And do I need this much? And well, this one's on sale. And, it drives you crazy.
Yeah. It's
but not
worth
with my book.
Well, right. Not with the book. And it's worth it to educate yourself. I mean, the cost of this book would potentially save you several $100s.
Yes.
And the hassles, some of the associated with some of what we've talked about here. Just if you understand and you're buying the right thing for the right job, you can violate those rules, and you might get away with it for a while, or you might cost yourself a few $100s extra than you needed to spend, or you might lose your data. So, there's a spectrum of danger there that not being educated on some of this stuff, even a little bit. And fortunately, Jeff has written the book. So you don't have to go anywhere else. You just go to Jeff and he'll fix it for you.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, so much of this is actually like saving time, because, I've been spending the time looking at all these specs and trying to make sense of it all, so that you don't have to. I mean, I'm sure this comes up like when you buy a television, right? You're like, oh, I suddenly have to become an expert on HD TVs, 4K TVs, 8K TVs, just so that I know that I'm making a good choice. And so with storage, suddenly like, oh, you need more storage? Well, now you need to become a storage expert. And none of us want to do that, but we also want to make sure that we're choosing the right thing, that we're spending the right amount of money, that we're not going to, do something that's going to hamper us in the future. And so that's kind of the real value of this. Also, one other thing that I hadn't brought up yet, a new section in the book is just talking about like how to identify drives that are going to possibly fail, because I've had the experience where you're just going along, and then suddenly something is just wrong, right? The media hard drive that I had before, it just stopped working, and like it'll load, and I can see it on the desktop, but it makes a lot of weird clicky noises, and it's really slow, and like those kind of indicators that like you don't ever want to get to that point, because then you're like, oh crap, I'm going to lose my data. I need to, set aside what I'm doing today and go order a new hard drive and hope it comes in the next couple days and see what I can do. Do I have a backup of this data? And so there's a section on, sort of looking for some of those indications. But then there's also a program called Drive DX, which I found to be really helpful, that, takes like a healthy snapshot of what your disk looks like. And it's looking at a lot of different data as to, how fast data is being read, or how many failures, how many, sectors have been marked as not available, things like that can pop up and tell you, say, hey, this drive looks a little suspect. It's time to start thinking about backing it up. Or again, because I had this media drive that was failed, it was a great test case, because I could say, yes, like this is what a failed hard drive looks like here, and this is what you would see, and the indications and the problems and all of that, so that you don't have to get to that point of saying, oh my gosh, something catastrophic has happened. You can start at the point that says, oh, something's not right. I'm going to look into this. Looks like the hard drive might be going. So I'm going to order another one and be able to just sort of smoothly fix this problem rather than deal with an emergency.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because we all did it early on whenever you started into your computing thing, where, hey, my drive's clicking. I wonder what that means. And you don't realize that this is impending disaster. And now with SSDs, it's even more exciting because they don't click or hum or anything. They just stop. So something like this would be, and having somebody to walk me through it to understand it would be extremely helpful. Because once again, we're talking about your data here, and it's not something you want to play with. So
right, exactly.
Jeff, this has been a lot of fun. I mean, we took what could potentially be a boring subject and laughed about it, and that's always a good thing. So
that's the goal. That's always the goal.
Yeah. So this is Take Control of Your Digital Storage, takecontrolbooks.com, of course. The pricing on the new edition is
$14.99.
And but it's the usual free upgrade, or is there a charge for an upgrade?
If you own the previous edition, it's a $5 upgrade, which is quite a good discount. I will boastfully say. So for $5 if you own a previous update. It's been actually great to see a lot of people go for that. So they're even though they bought the previous edition, storage is an ongoing thing. Then things are changing. So so $5 for the upgrade, $15 for the book, and I think that's it. At takecontrolbooks.com, I got an email saying that it's also available at Amazon, but I have not actually seen what they're charging for it. But I think it's somewhere around the same. Okay. But if you buy it from Take Control Books, more of the money goes to the publisher. You're supporting small publishers and small businesses, and that's always good too.
Yeah. And since it's digital delivery, it's not like you're doing the overnight Amazon Express thing. You hit the button and it's still downloading. It's just downloading from a different place.
Right.
So, yeah.
Our books are very carbon friendly.
I've heard that. Hey, Jeff, thank you so much for being here and talking about it. A lot of fun, a lot of good information. I hope everyone will go out and, if nothing else, just read the summaries that you have on takecontrolbooks.com to get a good understanding of what all's there. And hopefully we've helped you understand why you need to know it. Come back again, Jeff, anytime. It's always fun.
Absolutely. Just give me a call. Love coming on.
All right. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Please take control of your digital storage. It's your data. Please take care of it. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.